So this first video I'm going to make is just a review. Let me change this. Okay. Alright. So just a review of fraction to percent to decimal. So I'm going to start with example 3 in the workbook. And we have 1.6. And we're going to turn it into a fraction. So there is one whole part. Remember, a fraction is less than 1. So when I have a whole part, it becomes the whole number to my mixed number. Okay? Now the next thing is the 6. It's in the tens place. So it's going to be 6 over the place value of 10. And I can reduce that down to 3 over 5 because 2 can go into both. Okay? All right. So let's look at example 4. And I'm going to go a little further with this one. I'm also going to change it into a percent. So 0.07, if I move my decimal 2 places, it's going to be 7%. If I make it a fraction, it's 7. And the 7 is in the hundreds place, so the place value or whole is 100. Example 5, 1.06. Okay, so I have 1 as a whole number, 6 in the hundreds place this time. Still can be divided by 2. And that will give me 1 and 3/50. If I want to make this a percent, I know I got a whole 100%. Move that decimal place 2 more places, and I have 106%. All right, negative 2.03. I know my whole number is a 2. 3 is in the hundreds place, so it's 2 and 300ths. Okay. And it's negative. All I do is bring the negative along. If I'm making it a percent, I move that decimal, and it's 203%, and it's negative. Negative just is along for the ride when we're just converting it. All right, and the last example in that part is this one, okay? I got one too many zeros. So the 2 is in the thousands place. Okay, I can divide both by 2, and that will give me 1/500th. Okay, and it's negative. Okay, if I'm doing it as a percent, it's just move that decimal place 2 places, and it's negative 0.2%. It's not even 1%. All right, in the next one, we're supposed to turn the percents into fractions or decimals. So I'm going to start with example 10, and it's 45%. Remember, a percent is always out of 100, okay? And I know I can divide this by 5, okay, to reduce it down, and it's going to be 9 over 20. If I want to make this a decimal, I just put my decimal at the end of the number, and I move it 2 places, and my decimal will be 0.45. All right, I want to do the next one, which is less than 1%, okay? So if this was the hundreds place right here, then this is the thousands place. I'm 1 place behind, so it's going to be 1,000. 3 over 1,000 is my fraction. If that's confusing, first turn it into a decimal. Okay, so I move decimal 2 places, and it's going to be 0. Fill in a 0 here, 003. Now I can see that 3 is in the thousands place. So if it's ever confusing to see those point somethings as a fraction, turn into a decimal first. Now I have a percentage that is more than 100%, so I know I'm going to have 1 as my whole number, okay, and then 23 out of 100. And then as a decimal, I'm going to move it 2 places, and I'm going to also get 1 as a whole number with a decimal value of 0.23. Let's do another one like that. Okay, 2 is the whole number. It's going to be 54 over 100. I can reduce this by a 2. So it's 2 and let me see, 27 over 50. All right. As a decimal, I'm just moving it 2 places, so it's going to be 2.54. All right, and negatives are just as easy as putting that negative in it. So this is 45 over 100, which reduces down to 9 over 20. And I just throw that negative in there. And then as a decimal, we already did this one. It's 0.45, but it's negative. That's all I change is the negative sign. Okay, so remember, just put it over 100. I can divide by 2 in this one. So it's going to be 38 over 50. I can divide by 2 again. So 18 over 25. And that's about as far as I can go. I got to put my negative in front. Again, the decimal, I just move it 2 places, so it's negative 0.76. All right, so let's do fractions now. Okay, so I'm going to have 1/5. If I want to turn 1/5 into a decimal, the best way to do it is to divide. I want a decimal, so I'm going to put my decimal place in there, and then I can put as many place values. Now I'm in the tenths place, okay? So 2 can go into 10 2 times. Just like when you multiply, and you got to put that 0 on the next line so that you move your place value. That's what we're doing here. Okay, and that's 10, okay? If I want to get to the hundreds place so I know the percentage, I would add yet another 0, okay, and 5 can go into 0 times. So I know that the decimal value is 0.2 or 0.20, and if I move that 2 places, it's 20%. All right, the next one is 1/2. Okay, again, I want it to the hundreds place, so I'm going to put 2 zeros. So 2 can go into 10 2 times, 5 times, sorry, 5 times. Drop down a 0, 2 can go into 0 times. So I know it's 0.5 or 0.50, but I do know it's going to be 50%. That makes sense because half, 50%. Makes sense. So now I know I have a whole number, okay? But I'm just going to divide out my fraction. I know I want a decimal. I'm going to put 2 place values in there so I get to the percent, okay? 3 goes into 20 18 times, which is 6. And then it's going to do it again, okay? So 0.66. But I have to put a 1 because I have a whole number of 1 in the front. Okay? If I move that, I have 166%. And the last one I'm doing in this video is this one. Again, I have a whole number, so I know I'm going to have a decimal and a percent with a 3 in front. And I'm just going to divide out the other number. I want to get to the hundreds place, so that's 2 zeros, tens place, hundreds place. 4 goes into 10 2 times, which is 8. Drop the 0, drop down the 0. 4 goes into 25 times, so it's going to be 3.25, make it into a percent, 325%. So practice those, keep practicing them, because we're going to be using our fractions, percents, and decimals a ton in this next unit.